Tyler, so much to discuss. First off, great that we're actually going to have a football game coming up this week. But with the Patriots and all that's going on, got to start with Matthew Judon. And, things have simmered down a little bit after he was away for the team for a couple days. He's since returned. He's been practicing. But where do things stand between Judon and the Patriots right now?
Yeah, I mean, we've really went around the world since the last time we talked. We were going into the first day of full pads, not knowing what was to come, and certainly things did blow up between Maye and Matt Judon. As you know, wasn't at practice the following day, but things, as you note, do seem to have simmered down a little bit. Was able to practice in full pads with the team later in the week, which is a notable development because things just kind of got so toxic there for a minute. You didn't even really know if he was going to be a part of this team going forward. But ultimately, Maye told reporters later in the week that he had a good conversation with Judon. It seems like they are on the same page. The fact that he was out there practicing was a notable development. You got to remember, last year when he was kind of going through a similar squabble with Bill Belichick, he wasn't taking part in those types of practices. So that is a step in the right direction, and we'll see how these things move forward. Now, I don't think that the Patriots can extend any other player at this point because they've already extended as many players as humanly possible. So you would assume that Matthew Judon is the next guy up. The question is there going to be a contract that the Patriots like and that Matthew Judon likes? There's been reports that the two sides have been going back and forth. Judon has disputed some of those reports on his social media account. So the question is, what kind of resolution can come from here? Yes, things have simmered down now, but until a contract is reached, I still think that we kind of have to proceed with caution here because any other movement could kind of pop things off again, and we can get into a sticky situation with Judon going forward.
Yeah, at the very least, though, it's nice to have him back at practice. A lot of talk this past week about Maye, the rookie quarterback, and the way he's performed in preseason. And in some ways, Tyler, I think it's gone a little bit overboard considering he's only a rookie and learning this offense. But at the same time, a rookie still learning this offense. So I pose the question to you, how has Maye looked so far in camp?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head right there. He's looked like a rookie. And when you have a rookie quarterback, you're going to have rookie lumps. You're going to have good days. You're going to have bad days. Maye said, as long as the arrow continues to relatively move in the right direction, up and to the left, then that's fine. There's going to be some ups and downs along the way. But as long as you get that relative trajectory, that's all you want to see from your young quarterback. And certainly to start training camp, it particularly great. There was some rough patches there for Maye. He's responded well in recent days. So, it's not all doom and gloom. He's had some bright moments throughout camp, but particularly these last few days, especially as they transitioned into the red zone, I feel like he's kind of caught a little bit of a spark here. And now that we transition into a game week, I'd love to see kind of what that preparation looks like for him. But overall, as you noted, he's a rookie. He's going to have these lumps. Of course, you would want him to come in, be the number 3 overall pick in hype, be the new Patrick Mahomes, but that's not realistic. And so eventually, maybe he gets there. He lives up to those Josh Allen, Justin Herbert type comparisons we were hearing leading up to the NFL draft. But it's hard to expect that from day one. He's learning a new offense. He's coming from the ACC, not only learning a new offense, but being accustomed to playing against professionals. It's not like it's the SEC. He was playing at Alabama like Mac Jones was and was playing the top tier competition in college ball. It's a little bit different. And so when you're transitioning not only to an increased level of talent, but also learning a new offense, getting in and out of the huddle, working under center, those are things that are going to take time.
So I'll ask the question I know is on the mind of a lot of fans. Should we expect to see him in the preseason opener against the Panthers?
Yeah, I would assume so. And again, we'll have to hear from Maye at some point this week as to what the overall plan is for his team going forward in this preseason game. At some point, you will see Maye in the preseason. It's just a matter of how much and how long will we see him. Jacoby Brissett's the clear-cut starter in week 1, in my opinion. So I would assume that he would get the least amount of reps in this opener. Maybe you see him for the opening series, maybe a couple of series in the first quarter, and then he makes way to Maye. But I don't know how much more, maybe the equal amount of playing time he would see with Jacoby Brissett. And then it becomes the Bailey Zappi, the Joe Milton show for the primary of the second half. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see him a little bit. But overall, I do think that they might take a little bit more of a cautious approach, especially in this week 1.
Let's hit on the playmakers now, Tyler. There have been some great reports about Jalen Polk and Javon Baker in camp. And we know that wide receivers in years past, in terms of the NFL draft, the Patriots have not done a great job in terms of drafting and developing wide receivers. But how likely is it that the Patriots have finally hit on some wide receivers in the draft with these two guys?
Yeah, it's been encouraging. It really has. You see them perform. And again, it's training camp. It's only the first couple of weeks. So, let's not make any grand statements that they found A. Brown and Jalen Polk or Deebo Samuel, and Javon Baker. We have to temper expectations. But overall, it's a tremendous start. It's not like in years past where you look at the wide receivers that they brought in via the draft and go, oh boy, I don't know if this kid can play. Jalen Polk has been arguably their best wide receiver in camp so far. He's been a go-to option for all the quarterbacks, heavily involved. Was great in the red zone in one of the days that I saw him. And Javon Baker, you go on Twitter, you go on X, you look at some highlights and you're like, boy, this dude can really be a deep threat in this offense. So there's a lot of encouraging signs, some highlight plays that both of them have had. Again, you temper the expectations a little bit because we haven't seen them in a game setting. I'll be fascinated to see them in the preseason going up against a little bit of scheme. Again, it's the preseason. You're not going to see full-blown scheme, but a little bit of scheme, heightened competition. I think that that's going to be the most exciting. And on top of that, they do have a joint practice with the Philadelphia Eagles. I'd be curious to see how those youngsters perform. But overall, it's been a really encouraging start. We talk a lot about Drake Maye and what we hope that he accomplishes in year one. If all of a sudden Javon Baker and Jalen Polk look like they can play at the end of year one, that's a huge development for this offense.
One guy we have seen in this wide receiver group is Demario Douglas. And one thing that our Dan Roach reported on this past week was that when he was in the fold, when the offense was practicing, they looked a lot better. So how important is Demario Douglas for this receiver group and this offense coming into year two for him?
It's really a night and day difference. I'd agree with that report. When you have Demario Douglas in this offense as your primary slot receiver, it's a different offense. It really is. He brings in, and folks who watched this team last year know he had the most pop, to no pun intended, the most lightning quickness in this offense, and really was a game changer. He led the team in receptions and receiving yards. To me, it was very encouraging to see him now back in the fold, was dealing with a hand injury at the start of camp. Seeing him back on the mend is a huge sign for this team. You've seen in offenses past with the Patriots, the Wes Welkers, the Troy Browns, the Julian Edelmans, those slot type of receivers, Danny Amendola, be a huge safety blanket for these quarterbacks, and especially for a guy like Drake Maye, who's going to be under siege a little bit. Things are going to be sped up. He might have to check down a little bit more than you'd want him to in a rookie season whenever he gets under center. And to have a guy like Demario Douglas in there, not only to dump things off to, but then to make a play once the ball is in his hands, it's a huge difference maker for this offense.
And still looking for that first touchdown in his NFL career, so hopefully he can get that when we finally get to the actual games. But it seems like this whole wide receiver group has a chip on their shoulder with where they rank relative to the rest of the NFL, according to the media. Let's go to the offensive line now, Tyler. Mike Onwenu, he got paid in the offseason, 3-year, $57 million deal, but the assumption was he'd remain at right tackle, but he switched to right guard. Is this a smart move that the Patriots are making with him?
Yeah, a little bit of a surprising move, and I'm not saying that to myself. Onwenu himself said it was a little surprising that all of a sudden he is now playing in training camp at right guard, which is a position that he's played at points during his career. He finished last season at right tackle. He gets the big extension this offseason. You think, okay, he's going to be their right tackle of the future. At least they have that side of the tackle position figured out, and they can focus solely on left tackle in training camp. Hasn't been the case so far in camp. He's pretty much been cemented as their right guard, and they've been tinkering around with the tackle positions between Chuks Okorafor, Caden Wallace, Vadarian Lowe. They've really kind of been mixing and matching and trying to find their best five. And that's something that Jerod Mayo has been emphasizing, trying to find the best five guys that they can put together. And certainly Onwenu is part of that equation. It's just a matter of, is it at right guard? Is it at right tackle? It seems like they've set him at right guard. And I think that he is a better player at that position. So I would say it's a relatively smart move. only if they can figure out the two tackle spots. Of course, if they can't figure out right tackle, move Onwenu back. But overall, he's best when you have him at right guard. So overall, smart move, but it's with the caveat as long as they can find those other guys to man those starting spots.
All right, before we let you go here, Tyler, we talked about Drake Maye and the likelihood that we will probably see him in that preseason opener against the Panthers on Thursday. What else are you hoping to see from this Patriots team in this first preseason game?
Yeah, well, I think first and foremost, the tackle spots, right? As long as those are figured out, then, hey, that's a good thing for Drake Maye. That's a good thing for this offense. A good thing for everybody if they can create a little bit of a wall for their quarterbacks, whoever is under center. But overall, I think you've got to take a little bit of a macro view of this preseason opener. Like I was saying earlier, they're installing a new offense with Alex Van Pelt at the helm. I kind of just want to see how that looks. I want to see how they get in and out of huddles and how they are able to execute. Do things run smoothly with Alex Van Pelt calling plays, particularly when Drake Maye's in under center? How does that look? How does he get in and out of huddles? Because there have been some times in camp where the teams had to re-huddle a little bit. It seems like there's some miscommunication along the line. So to me, it's just an overall smoothness of the offense is what I'm hoping to see. Just the standard operating procedure. It's a little bit of a boring answer, but something that if it goes wrong, you'll certainly notice.